Let's call this person. I'm giving her a number. Good morning. We welcome to our New Year edition of the Citadel webinar series. This is, although I have a toast to a blessed New Year. Welcome. Today I'm very excited and I'm very giddy because I'm opportuned, as usual, to host two legends in their own rights. Today we are featuring the internationally acclaimed TK, Tunde Kelani, founder of Mainframe Productions. Sir, why are you laughing? Are you not international, sir?
No, it's okay. When you say legend, I laugh because my uncles are still alive and they're on the field. So why am I legend when Professor Olugbade-Agbonyin is still on the field?
All of you, I still consider all of you to be legends. And it's an honor, a privilege to even interact with you. Thank you very much for your time. Welcome. We also
it's a pleasure and Happy New Year, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Do you know our dear attendees? It's the fireside chat, which means I'm not going to be the interviewer. Another icon in his own right, Professor Gbolahan Gbadamosi, is going to be the one interviewing Mr. Tunde Kelani. I'm sorry, sir. I was warned before today that you don't like titles. That's why I always hesitate when I'm about to call your name. But it's okay. When I say
to save you the trouble, just say TK, okay?
Okay, thank you for the permission. And then for Prof, I will just say Prof.
Gbolahan Gbadamosi is better.
Okay, okay, then I'll say Mr. Gbadamosi. Thank you very much. Very quickly, moving on.
Hello, Prof.
Yes, sir. Were you referring to me, sir?
No, I'm just saying hello to my brother, Professor Gbolahan Gbadamosi.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, my brother.
Be a poll that will be launched very soon. Please look out for it and tell us your opinion. Join us. We want to know how you feel, and the feedback we're going to get from the polls is going to be, I'm sure it's going to be very interesting to TK. So let's go on with that. Mr. Tunde Kelani is an internationally acclaimed filmmaker, producer, director, founder of Mainframe Films and Productions. Particularly in the Nigerian film industry, but in Africa and the world at large, TK has been known for so many wonderful works of production. In fact, I grew up, watching TK's movies, and I have my wonderful memories like Ti Oluwanile, Shauruje, Oleku. There's so many. Right now, that's why I plan to make a list and be listing it so that our international audience can know that yes, truly, who we brought on board is worth your time. And he's been in this industry telling the Nigerian cultural heritage story in such a wonderful way, in a way that we can relate with. He has put Nigeria on the map. He has put our culture on the map. And because of people like TK worldwide, people actually can relate with the Nigerian culture, some notable events, some of our icons in this country, they have been portrayed in a way that the world can understand and particularly enjoy by the works of Mr. Tunde Kelani. Sir, I doff my hat for you. He's going to be interviewed by a seasoned academic. Professor Gbolahan Gbadamosi has above 30 years of academic experience to his credit, and also has published over 100 academic publications. Wow. I wish I could sit near you and just shake you. When I shake you, I'll feel like I'm not academic. But it's okay, I'll make do with what I have here. So, Professor Gbolahan Gbadamosi, sir, you have the floor. Please, I want you to please shake TK very well. Shake him very well. We have a short time to get as much value from him as is possible. So please shake him very well so that we get, I have my notes here. I have everything I'm going to use to record these moments. I'll be with you shortly. Professor Gbadamosi, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Abisayo. Welcome, TK. I know TK is a man of very few words and always likes to be very simple and modest. It is the one thing that majority of his admirers know about him. It's an opportunity to talk to you, and particularly on something that you are always passionate and excited about. I have looked forward to this, and I'm excited that the day has finally come. So let's start from the personal. For the many who know your work, have been associated with it, people who have enjoyed it, who have experienced possibly life changes, as a result of what you do, but who do not know you. How would you like to introduce yourself, TK?
Well, Tunde Kelani, as you know, professionally, everybody refers to me as TK, and this is intentional. And I grew up in Abeokuta, here in Abeokuta, at a family compound, brought up by my grandparents, the Balogun of Ija Ekukudi, and my grandmother. I was ejected from my parents in Lagos because my father decided as soon as I was 5 years old that it was important that I be brought up in Abeokuta. And for me, I think at that time, for a young person, must have been I thought it was wicked on my father to separate me from my mother. But look at the benefits that I got from it. And I just happened to be one of the very few people who became aware, of our cultural heritage at an early stage in my life. And then I took to photography, I suspect, to give me the tool to document and to share my cultural experience. And I can tell you what I have benefited in my lifetime. No, when I got to the family compound at the age of 5, everybody wanted to tell me stories all around. It started in oral tradition. And today, I am in this webinar with so many people in different places and time, all in a lifetime experiencing and sharing the same, what I wanted to do, passionate about my culture, which I wanted to share with everyone. And in one's lifetime, I seem to have experienced all the known technology of making motion pictures. And not only that, starting from, I never in my wildest imagination expect that one day I will be sitting across space and time and sharing the same experience with people through innovation. It's when you think about it, someone who has experienced from oral tradition to literature, to theater, to music, to Yoruba spirituality, design, music, procession, and all of this through radio, television, film, web, internet, and then mobile phones. Then think about across social media, YouTube, Facebook, and imagine, just what is happening now. We are all in communication with each other in different places in our home, offices, and we are interacting with each other. And I'm happy that all this happened in my own lifetime.
Thank you, TK. On a personal level, until I was introduced to your films and projects, I had severed relationships, or should I say embargoed Nollywood movies, especially with the depiction of witchcraft and evils, spreading pervading most of the production. When I came in contact with your films, I quickly and firmly are separated, from what I will refer to as mainstream Nollywood. And honestly, I still largely do. And, I'm going to raise up something to show you how far back this is. You might remember, you might not remember, but this is something that I picked up at 16. To Crescent, sometimes in the year 2001. And at that time, it was a comprehensive package of all your films in our DVD. So going back to what I was going to ask here, what is your view of this Nollywood that I just mentioned? You know, or should I ask, you know, what is Nollywood? You know, because I have
been. Yes, I have always been excited about Nollywood, or shall we say, the overall the Nigerians' demonstration of creativity. You know, in our unity in diversity, we seem to have not taken full advantage of what it means by our diversity. But one thing I knew, as soon as I was conscious, I realized, you know, that there was something in the Nigerian space. For instance, at Abeokuta Grammar School, when I was in Form 2 or Form 3, there was an excursion. The excursion, you know, got the students, some of us students together who are lucky. And we traveled all the way to Obishesan Hall in Ibadan. And I saw Kola Ogmola in the Pan One Drinker, that opera, for the first time in my life, and I never forgot it. And that's why 50 years later, I was able to produce it on stage again, you know, and teamed up with Tunde Aosomi and all the other people. We came together to readapt this. What I'm saying in essence is that the Nollywood could not have happened in any other country in the world or Africa except in Nigeria, because there's something about the Nigerian people who are quite naturally creative and very resilient. When the industry came about, I met my uncles on the ground, and I had the benefit, the opportunity to have been trained at Western Nigerian television at the time when there was no video at all. So we were shooting films on a daily basis. Everything that happened outside the studios of television, we shot completely on film. And I wasn't done yet, although I had wanted to be trained in motion picture production. I didn't, after about 2 or 3 years of my training at Ibadan, I wasn't impressed by the film that was shown on a box, in a television box, you know, and it was black and white. It was what we can call academy format, which almost square. And it was nothing compared with the films I saw in the cinema. So I just, if I knew, you know, today that television was going to come in smart television, which is wide, you know, best pictures and everything, I probably would have paid more attention to television production. In any case, I went to London Film School and I was trained in the art and technique of filmmaking. But I came back and realized that, you know, Nigerians, really the Yoruba traditional theater, who had transited, you know, from stage to radio to television and had gone into film and was led by Baba Yuba Togunde himself and so on. So there was a lot of excitement. Now, if you look at and study Nollywood, you realize that Nollywood is as broad as the diversity in the Nigerian diversity. In other words, even in Yoruba land, you have that diversity, because there has to be a reason why people prefer the kind of film because it is, I think it's an audience decision as to what kind of film they want to see. So you can have anything from horror to love story, to drama, to all the genres are there. And as long as their audience is demanding those things, you know, you can expect that there will be all sorts of films. So every film in Nollywood is important because it draws emotional response from a certain group of people, the audience, who continue to demand. Because if the audience did not demand this film, the producer would have gone out of business. So there's never going to be a single Nollywood. It's going to be as diverse as the Nigeria concept of diversity. And we have not even seen all of it. You know, so it depends on what you are looking at and what it's about entrepreneurship. Some people, the marketers and distributors, you know, they found the fund to fund these particular films.
Yep.
And then it is business as well. And I always give credit to that side of the industry because they're very prolific.
Yep.
Once in a while, people, of course, make the kind of films we think want to make, but that's not enough to sustain the industry. So there has to be a reason why these men and women, you know, and all the allied services are, you know, they are keeping the economy going in spite of all the, they are deprived, you know, all of that is not enough to stop the energy of Nollywood. And that is, when I was in London Film School, we did what we call the third world cinema. And they're looking at some African countries' participation in cinema or motion picture production. And at that time, Nigeria was written off. We were not considered a serious filmmaking nation, but that role is now reversed. And Nigeria now is leading African cinema. Nigeria has redefined the concept of African cinema. That is a cinema of the people, you know, because primarily this is about people. And you know, when you talk about people, it's about development. And so Nigeria, in spite of everything else, Nigeria has managed to give the world a brand that when you talk about global cinema today, it is not going to be complete without Nollywood.
Yeah.
At first, just like Nigeria, we didn't like it. I didn't like it, for instance, because I thought that our cultural expression should not be labeled anything wood. And thank God there are also woods around. And I'm happy that in Yoruba land, we don't have something wood. We just know that the concept of Yoruba cinema is valid because it's all about cultural expressions. You know, if there's South Korean film and there's Indian film and there's Japanese film and there's Russian cinema and there's Polish cinema and French cinema, I think there's a validity in Yoruba cinema. But when you come closer, you realize that it depends on their background and orientation. Most of the films that you see in Nollywood are nothing but filmed theater because they are, you know, they are transiting from medium to medium. So the concept of the Yoruba traveling theater is still there and is very strong. And you can easily detect, you can see the influence of the theater in most of the films that are produced in the southwest of Nigeria. So it depends on your preference as an audience. What would you like to see? But in contrast, we are trained filmmakers and we are trained, for instance, I make, you know, films using imagery. You know, it's about, for me, it is about the image. But for them, it is about the theater, the performance. So although we draw from the same source, but the products can never be the same. So there are a lot of people who prefer the films, the Nollywood films, and there are some who look at the alternative Nollywood or the other Nollywood or the Nollywood of something. You need to have today to qualify what your Nollywood mean. In fact, chances are that in West Africa, in Africa today, in West Africa, especially in West Africa, in Ghana, any film that comes out of Ghana today might even be labeled Nollywood. You know, so that shows you that it's a name, it's a quick definition of the totality of what they think Nigerian film or cinema is about. But when you come closer to it, you discover the diversity within this Nollywood phenomenon.
Thank you, TK. I appreciate that, you know, very detailed and it's kind of thing I was looking to be able to decipher. And I think you have been able to help the narrative, you know, in terms of compartmentalizing this and showing the richness of the African culture. What I want to do is to then go on to asking you a few questions about filmmaking directly. Elsewhere in some of the things, I have paid attention to your interviews. I'm not stalking you, but I do try to read what you say. I do try to listen to your interviews and things like that because they excite me. So elsewhere, you have argued that filmmaking is a collaborative effort. It's a collaborative art. And you are very famous for your largely African narratives, especially films around the Yoruba culture, Yoruba stories, and along those lines. Granted that there are several sources, as I've just highlighted, of filmmaking narratives. How do you source? How do you source your own filmmaking ideas? How do you source the ideas? For example, what will make you go, wow, this is a film I would like to make?
Let me just give you a bit about my background in that sense. When I was growing up, let me start from my primary school.
Yeah,
here at Abisayo, Okeno United Primary School. In 1955, 400,000 children lined up, and reported at school for the first time under the program of the Western Nigerian government, led by Chief Obafemi Awolowo and his government at that time. I was one of those children, who wore a khaki, and then joined other children. And what we were doing is we were just, just chasing each other, just having fun. And I remember my grandfather then put maybe 3 pence or 1 penny or something in my pocket. And during lunch break, we find that we could not resist the aroma of the rice, the stew. And so I spent all of the money with my friends, just to have the meal. And when I got back home, my father welcomed us back from school for the first time. And he dipped his hand in my pocket and found the coin missing. And he asked what happened. And I said, we ate rice with it. And my grandfather cried and said, oh my God, these children, they have spent the money. I didn't realize that I was not expected to touch the money, but to decorate my pocket. In any case, all I'm saying is that from that point on, our education has started, but in our Yoruba language for the first few years. And it is interesting that the Okeno United Primary School had a library. It had a school library at that time. And my friend, Dr. Gbolahan was the librarian. So we read all the books that were in the library. So I wanted to say this and then when I attended the Abisayo Grammar School, of course, we practically, destroy and search the library for anything we could read. I remember we used to read even Baroness Oxley, which was 2,000 pages of, text and things like that. So you can make film from original idea, or you can use a source material. Source material means books other people have worked on, and then you can adapt this. So I seem to have favored working from source material, and that is why I've worked closely with Professor Akemi Shola, Adebayo Faleti, Wale Ogunyemi, Yinka Egbokare, Bayo Adebowale. These are works that I have adapted from existing literary material. And I think that the problem that we have a paucity of good film is that the present generation of filmmakers are not reading at all. So in my head, all around me, I have 1,000 stories or books that I've not even touched in some order of priority. Occasionally, I may veer off, and work from a source material, like Toluwanile, for instance, is fiction, it's a source material. But when I get such material, I pour some time in research, and I take advantage of my cultural experience and situate the story in my own circumstances. So what is happening is, if I start working on anything, first of all, I put myself in it. At all the films that I have made, I can see myself, or I can see people I know or everything around me, and put it in the story. So it would look, and in that sense, since you mentioned film as a collaborative art, yes, it has to be collaborative, because I understand writers, for instance, maybe for months, they are in this room or they are studying, working way on the book they are writing. Or you could say an artist, for instance, who has his canvas and he has his colors and paints and all that, and this painting, this one image, you know, which it's more original than making a film, because in film it's a device, you know, it's even an illusion, you know, nothing of this thing exists. We make 24, 25 frames of picture in 1 second, 24, 25 in 1 second. And then we have to manipulate this in such a way that if we show it rapidly, it produces this phenomenon called the persistence of vision. You think that it is there, and it gives the illusion of movement. This is not true. You know, it's a con. You understand? So, and essentially, if you make 25 frames in 1 second, and you multiply that by 60 to make 1 minute, and you multiply that by another 60 to make 1 hour, imagine thousands and thousands and thousands of frames. And when you finish, most of the artists that we know in history, you know, they paint one paint, just one product all by themselves. On the other hand, we produce thousands and thousands of images by maybe a crew of about 100 people, 75, 40, 30, 36 people, and so on. And we rush the film to the cinema, and they hold an artist, you know, a sale. And this single work, one frame, sells for $5 million. And the film that we make with multiple frames and so many people and labor, you know, maybe makes 5 million naira. There's no basis for comparison. Yeah. And that's why everybody contributes to the making of a film. It is an assembly of expertise contributing, you know, for one goal. But there has to be somebody in charge in creative terms, the director, who, you know, take all this expertise and mold it into a story, a film. So I think it's a fantastic phenomenon, you know, and it's something that one will continue to learn forever. So basically, that I'm telling you that I have to work primarily with literary, the writers first, and then the designers, you know, and then the technical people, and then music, you know, and everything is everything. All the arts are represented in making a film. I think it's a wonderful thing. If I head this way again, I will ask God to please let me go back to my filmmaking.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, TK. What you doing is that your responses are so, you know, encompassing, you know, so you tend to cover, preempt some of my coming questions and sort of just get on and answer it, which is really quite nice. Still on filmmaking, you know, because what I try to do is to sort of compartmentalize, you know, categorize what I want to sort of allow us to talk about, you know, in this chat today. But, you know, one final thing on filmmaking before I go to the aspect that I'm looking forward to, which is about developing our talents, you know. The one more question I want to ask you about filmmaking is in terms of the quality of Nigerian films. How does it compare to the rest of the world today, not previously? We have come a long way from your narrative. That seems very clear. So the quality of Nigerian films and the access to funding, you know, by Nigerian filmmakers, how does it compare to the rest of the world? So there are two things I'm looking out for there. The quality of Nigerian films, how does it compare to the rest of the world? And, you know, access to funding by Nigerian filmmakers, you know, how does it compare to the global film industry? Is this something that you say it is similar, it is better, it is worse? You know, how would you evaluate this?
Well, I think that's why Nigeria has become the beacon of hope for the rest of Africa and the whole world, because if you compare, I don't think there's the basis for comparison is not fair. You know, in the first place, people should wonder how in a country that cannot even produce electricity, a country that cannot produce water, a country that cannot produce good roads, a country that cannot produce, you know, broadband internet, you know, and so on. You should not, such a country is, Nigerians, you know, they are magicians, you know, people who refuse to see disabilities, people who refuse to, you know, they don't want to see the orders. They just want to do it. So Nigeria, you know, strangely enough, did not see they just see only possibilities. So you know how difficult it was to make film in my time when we came into the industry. You could use only the chemical process, the films, and everything we used was imported from abroad. The camera imported, the film stock imported. Even after we have shot the film had to return to England or America for post-production, for processing, you know, and printing. And then they send the rushes back to us. We'll edit in Nigeria, and then everything has to go again, go outside. So he relied on all of, you know, foreign exchange until the Nigerian economy nosedived during the Babangida era, you know, the SAP, Structural Adjustment Program, which nailed the coffin of filmmaking in Nigeria at that time. None of us and my uncles could afford, you know, to raise the foreign exchange needed to make films. Our Uncle Francis Ladile, you know, Kapeni, who did Kongi Harvest, and Buffogin, his son, was producing a film in the 80s that was called Eye of Life. And it was subscribed because they pitched to one of the banks and they got investors in need. And at that time, they raised the budget. The budget was based on the conversion of Naira to dollar at 3-to-1. And that means that they will need 3 Naira to get $1. So they started to make this film. But before they finished the film, the exchange rate has, you know, crept to 25-to-1. So in other words, they had spent all the money during production and there was no money for post-production and the film never came out. And that, for all of us, it was the awakening just to assure us about the realities. But again, Nigeria seemed to have leveraged on technology because it was around this time that home video, you know, was came in, and some smart marketers, you know, started to think of the idea of making a film with video. You know, this is against everything that I had learned at London International Film School. I came back, and it will be unheard of that one made a film with video. It is certainly, some of my own peers never transited into technology, but I seem to have embraced technology and tried to use it in a way, you know, that I could continue my storytelling, which was most important. If it was decided that the film would be made on ceramic or bamboo or anything, I would be one of the first people who was going to try it. And so that is what Nigeria had done. Nigeria does not see the disadvantages. They just get up and go, you know. So that is the lesson that Nigeria has taught the whole world, that in spite of everything else, there's nothing that can stop Nigerians from achieving their goal once they identify it. And so that is how Nollywood is, you know, it's people should be researched further. Why Nigeria of all people, with all the depravity, with all the massive infrastructural deficit, would be a force to be reckoned with on the continent and in the world. So Nigerians learn quickly. They've all moved on. So if today, you can see the rate at which films are being released on YouTube. I've been studying this for the last few months and I'm surprised. you know, that to see a film today, you know, just go on YouTube today, you see such a film came out 5 days ago. And then you move another one 3 days ago. And then you come to 17 hours ago. Yeah. 5 hours ago, even 1 hour ago. You try it today. You know, so it shows that if every other thing's been equal, Nigeria is poised, and I'm not surprised that Nigeria is touted with everything going on around us as one of the economic horsepower of Africa. And I believe it, because even with COVID and everything and so on, you are amazed. You know, at this time, new businesses are coming on stream. People are developing, they're building, you know, they're bubbling, they're just going on. You know, so in other words, we can say that we're not quite there yet, and the basis for comparison does not exist, because if you look from infrastructure, America has about 40,000 screens, and Nigeria we still have under 500 or 700. So how can we compare that? India has maybe 13,000 screens, and Nigeria has less than 1,000. So what that means, that suggests, is that the industry, the Nollywood, can be sustainable if we invested in the infrastructure. If you know, well, what's the point? You know, you want to watch a good movie, you want to go online, you can't do that, and there's no electricity to do it. And as it is now, even going online, you realize that data is very expensive. Most of us rely on mobile data for entertainment. I mean, it's too expensive. So there's a massive difference in the infrastructure of those places and Africa or Nigeria at this particular time.
Okay, thank you, TK. The audience is excited listening to you, and they would like to ask a lot of questions. But I have not even gone halfway of the kind of questions I want to ask. So I want to change the style. I want to see if I can use the next couple of minutes to take you on some very quick snapshots, sort of short and sharp questions. That just more or less like a yes or no type of question with a very brief comment. That will lead us to the rounding off of my own segment of this. Have you ever abandoned a film project? If yes, would you like to give a short comment about this? Have you ever abandoned anyone?
Well, let me start this way, because I've just finished, the principal photography on Anila, you know, and this time around, I was...
last question, by the way.
And I was for the first time, working with a lot of young people. And I take them through the process. I said, in my own experience, you know, there are about 3 important stages, you know, that I enter when on a film project. First of all, there's the process of apprehension that, oh, okay, so maybe the last 3 years I've dreamt of making this film and this story, you know, I've researched this and everything. And then suddenly I'm able to raise the funds to do it. And then at the onset, on the onset, I enter this process of apprehension and say, okay, so it's happening. But even then, it's not quite right, because at the beginning of it, you might come across some obstacles. And at that point, you spend some of the money and you can't postpone it. You can stop it and say, well, maybe the time is not right. So I've just spent 700,000 naira. Okay, I can live with that. So I'll just stop and not continue and wait until the right time. But once you pass that point, then you enter a point of no return, and you have already committed the resources and everything. So there's only one way to go. You have to go on. You can't look back. Okay. And then you have to go on. And then finally, before you finish the project, you enter another critical stage, and that is the stage of desperation. You enter a process of desperation. And in that point, you are looking at, look, what is it that is the most important that I must get in this film? You know, because at that point, it's clear to you that you're not going to shoot everything you had written down or planned. You know, so you have to start a process of deletion. You can say, look, I can do without this, I can do without, I can do without this. And then you realize, of course, that everything is short. Time is short, money is short, you know, and so on. So you now enter this desperation, and then you look and you say, well, so I will do better next time, and I hope I have the opportunity to go on. So these are mainly the three stages that you enter. And come to think of it, I seem to have forgotten your question. Can you give me the question again?
Yes, I was saying whether you have ever abandoned the film project.
Oh, yes. I can tell you briefly. You know, about 3 years ago, never mind how I came about this, I decided that I would do a Wole Soyinka film. And through the encouragement of Professor Wole Soyinka himself, and suddenly he just mentioned the idea, and I came back 2 days later and said, I've made up my mind, sir. I'm going to do The Lion and the Jewel. And I wanted his permission to say, I will call it CD. I'll call this film CD Ilujile. And the objective is to take a Wole Soyinka word, you know, and then do it in Yoruba language and culture, and give it back to the source where Professor Wole Soyinka got his inspiration from. And I said, if I make this film, people will, you know, people won't even know. And they will sing just an ordinary story, and then saying, you know what, you have just watched the Wole Soyinka work, and so on. So that was and I made the film, and I told Professor Wole Soyinka that I decided to make the film in 8 days, that I can shoot it in 8 days. And Prof said, when? Next year? I said, no, it's not next year, sir. And at that time, I think it was November, I said the film will be ready in December. And Prof said, I think you're out of your mind. You know, maybe before you start this, just go to the hospital and do a medical checkup, just to check, you know, your blood pressure and all that. You know, I made the film, and we completed the film, but some of the challenges that I came across is very, you know, I had thought that The Lion and the Jewel was a very simple story of a village beauty, and then one teacher, you know, think he's educated, wants the girl, and they experienced polygamy. The ballet is interested in the girl. Who will get this girl? I think this is very simple, you know, story. Only to get into it and realize, my God, this is a combination of poetry, prose, drama, and everything. And wow, it was too late for me to back out. You know, so first of all, I had to translate everything into Yoruba, and then to do a screenplay out of it. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I made the film. We did a premiere of it, but instantly decided that I'm not going to release this. I can't. You know, so in that case, you can see that it is abandoned. Yeah. And it's one of the films that I want to do this year. Okay. I'll go back. I've decided that everything that I had done on this film is nothing more than a demo. It's just a demo. And I've identified the location, which is in Weme, Benin Republic, you know, to do this film. I'm going to recast the whole film. I'm going to rewrite the screenplay. We are going to, you know, so yes, I have abandoned projects, and that is
the audience are really
an example.
So finally, from me, are you going to write us an autobiography? Those of us who are your ardent admirers. And when will that be?
No, I don't think I can write. I mean, I think I work with writers.
You can tell the story to people. There are many willing writers, and you know how to work with people. We would like to have an autobiography.
Well, okay. You know, even now, I've told you almost everything about myself, even in this webinar already. You know, I told you where I started from. My primary school, we had a library in the school. And then Abeokuta Grammar School, we had a library in Abeokuta Grammar School. What else do you want to know? I worked in Western Nigerian television. You know, and then I went to London Film School. I came back and I do adaptation for literary material. What else do you...
Abisayo, let's interact with the audience.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, CK and Professor Gbadamosi. Very interesting. I was here when they said, what else do you want to know? There's so much. The library in your school is not enough for us now. We want to know, you know, so much more, but you know, And as Prof said, I'm sure there are many writers. I was going to also say that that should be a problem for.
Your line, I'm sorry, your line is breaking. So I didn't hear all of what you are saying. So maybe if people can hear you, they can, relay the question to me.
Okay, apologies. That might be due to some network issues. I was only saying that I was corroborating what Prof said, that what we know of you is not enough for us. We hunger to know so much more. That's why we're requesting, part of the people that are requesting for autobiography. But as you said, one or two writers will take it up. We're looking forward to that. I'm going to move on now very quickly to the question and answer session. Thank you very much for your time so far, sir. And the attendees, thank you for being here. We're very honored by your presence. And just to remind you, we launched a poll some minutes ago, and I put a message on the chat box to inform everybody. So please go to the polls and participate. Thank you. So I'm going to be reading questions to you, sir. Okay, very quickly, I will take the first question from Ladipo Ajayi, because he or she raised their hand quite early in this webinar. So Ladipo Ajayi, are you ready, sir, or ma? Ladipo Ajayi, are you ready, please? Okay, moving very quickly, I'm going to read some of the questions we have. Sir, I would prefer to read questions possibly to you. I don't know, what do you prefer, sir? Should I read them one after the other, or I read all the questions we have so far? And then
let's take it one at a time.
Okay.
Let's do one at a time.
Okay. We have a question from Ina Mohammed. Two questions. How can you adapt filmmaking technique to television production to make it work? And says, do you have an institute or process of impacting knowledge on the young ones? These are questions from Amina Mohammed A. Bolaji, please, you can raise your hand again when you're ready, and I'll let you. Thank you, sir. You have the floor.
Well, I think that between film and television, I was trained in television, but I hated television. I didn't want to do television. I was just interested in narrative, but today, there's been a blurring of all the media and all, communication generally. So television now has become the center of all creativity, in the sense that even online today, I watch more television because all the movies by online streaming like Netflix and Amazon, everything is now in your home. There's more emphasis on home entertainment, and the television today now is so sophisticated that it is as good as almost the cinema experience, minus, of course, the social side of it. So you could do series on television, and there's not much difference between the films and the TV series on television. It's more or less the same, except perhaps the issue of control and the funds and so on and so on. So there are some techniques, that if it's going straight for television, then maybe it's going to be fairly low budget and things like that. Otherwise, you can produce for television today. I want to do some that are going to be series on television, so I do agree with you. And then I have tried throughout my career to encourage people, especially young people. And anytime I have a project, I go out of my way to encourage people to come around. And it's not for nothing that, for instance, it is strategic on my part to have cited Koshegbe and filmed it in the University of OAU University in Ile-Ife at that time. And then, Oleku was completely, it was shot at University of Ibadan. And then the campus screen was shot completely at the University of Lagos. So this way, if I tell you some of the talents, the young people who joined me in Campus Screen, they are stars, today. And then, of course, we started Mainframe Film and Media Institute, and we ran the institute for some time, but now it's on recess, because of everything around. these days, something we would like to do again. But see, last year I was appointed visiting fellow to Federal University of Agric, and we run film making, digital filmmaking, and new media as just to encourage skills. Because today, I think young people need to get going because filmmaking essentially is entrepreneurial in a sense. The tools of the entrepreneur and the film producer are more or less the same. And I will encourage young people, no matter what you do, you need media skills. Whatever business you start or whatever you do, you are going to do new media skills. So filmmakers, they need entrepreneurship, and then entrepreneurs need media skills. So, and I'm still looking for ways that I can be more supportive, encouraging young people to take advantage of the technology around them, because really today there's nothing to stop you. And you should make films or make media content and not make excuses.
Thank you very much. I do look forward to the legacy that mainframe will be in so many years. I know that mainframe, personally, I can testify to the fact that mainframe leveraged so much on technology at that time. When we heard mainframe, a mainframe production film, we expected to see the best quality that's really other movies. It was never surpassing. But I do agree with you on the fact that you need to bring it back to operation. We look forward to that. And Motolani is asking, he or she would like to know where exactly they can get all your content, all your movies, your work so far. Is there one single platform where people can go to and have access to all of your work?
Well, we see, I'm so happy that that's one thing mainframe has been able to achieve, because since we adopted to use the video technology, to use technology to continue to make films, I'm probably one of the luckiest producers in Nigeria who have a body of works from Toluwanile to the present film, which at the moment is the Dazzling Mirage. So we sort of group all of them together, and they can be purchased together. Although we are reorganizing that as well, and probably will go online, but this is a work in progress. And I can assure you, in the new year, we will, now that I know that the films are still in demand, I'm slightly skeptical because the piracy, drove us out of business at a point. And I'm so appreciative of the support I've received from the Nigerian, our audience especially, so that by now the films will have flooded all homes, because the pirates took over about 3-4 years ago and flooded the town with every film we have ever made. So I think seriously about it this year. So we'll probably be advertising where the films can have contact with the films.
We look forward to that, because people know, in fact, you see the comments that people have been dropping out there. So privileged to relate. People are looking forward to your work. Personally, and even in the comment section, people are asking about. We have heard everywhere, we are feeling the balls of Ainila, and I personally can see Ainila, and even the cast, I look forward to seeing them, and I know that without the house, it's going to be awesome. But I also heard a rumor, and someone also asked the comment section, Ainila is going to be your last movie. Do hope.
Olomaje. No, not at all. No. Like I'm talking to you, I'm 3 or 4 films away. You understand?
Even when I heard, I also had almost the same reaction. Oh no.
No, not at all. No.
Thank you for that. I have a question as well from Kolade. He says, he or she says, what do you think will be a more holistic solution to piracy in Nigeria? Just as you mentioned,
nobody can answer that question today, you know, because piracy, you know, it's a, you know, it's a worldwide phenomenon, and the kind of piracy that is so strange in the sense that the piracy attack that we had, you know, the band of, sometimes they are known, you know, they are known criminals, perhaps most of them in Alaba markets, you know, that pounced on everything that came around, and they are so powerful that they seem to have lived above the law, you know, and everything. We did everything possible. You know, I think it will be a long haul, it will be a long war and battle against, but that's not even the kind of piracy that is happening today. In fact, piracy, again, is the price we pay for technological advancement. Because piracy in that sense is so sophisticated now, it's become, they don't say piracy, they talk about the rights. You know, who own the rights of a work? You know, because most of the people that are sharing the work, sometimes they are not even being paid. They're not being paid for it, you know, but they perhaps for so many reasons psychologically maybe want to show that I have the power to do this. Because if you waited long enough, you know, even films that are made, you know, released on Netflix, for instance, are easily, you know, pirated, not pirated in that sense, shared, you know, completely. Most people get it for nothing, you know. So I think it's a worldwide, it's a war, something we have to think about, you know, and do something about it.
I quite worldwide. It's always been, but as you said, it's a price to pay for technological advancement. Mr. Odugbemi Michael would like to know. He says, as an aspiring filmmaker, what should be the first step to take, and which film institute will you recommend for such an individual, sir?
YouTube. No, I'm saying this is, it's important to be well trained, you know, so it depends, you know, even some universities offer film or media studies or cinematography and everything. And it depends on the person, yourself. But all I'm saying is that it's important to go to there are so many short courses. The Multi-Choice Talent Factory, for instance, admit 20 students in West Africa. You can try that. And then there's the National Film School in Jos, and so many others. So there's a lot of choices you can make, but don't forget that YouTube is there. There are millions and millions of people who are using YouTube. There's nothing you want to know today. With a simple search, you'll find it. Chances you have a tutorial. There are now a generation of filmmakers that did nothing but learned everything they learned on YouTube, and have already started their own page. They have started their own, you know, outlet on YouTube. And before you mention it, let me just tell you, because in our own days, I can tell you the trouble we took to have to control the means of production. But today,
make you ask waiting there, right?
Today, a good mobile phone can be your asset. And if you really want to be a filmmaker, you should be making film or making short films almost every week. You understand? And after a while, you become good at it. Chances are that if you are recognized by doing those small things, you will get a chance to have a go at the big projects.
Thank you very much. So holding on to what if somebody will recommend very soon to be, you know,
your audio is still a problem. I can't hear you at all.
Oh wow. How is it now? Is it better?
No, it's still breaking off.
Okay. Mr. or Mrs. Bolaji Ladipo, are you there? Can you hear me? If you are there, please ask your question live. TK sir, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. Mr. Bolaji, or Mrs. Bolaji Ladipo, would you please ask your question? I've unmuted you. Would you please ask your question? Okay, while we wait for him, we have tons of other questions. People
Well, by the way, you know, I was just waiting for Bolaji Ladipo Ajayi because there cannot be two Bolaji Ladipo Ajayi. He has to be my friend and brother. You know, we grew up together, attended Abisayo Grammar School together. I was his best man at his wedding. You know, so I'm suspicious. I think it's going to be my Bolaji Ajayi. I don't think there are two Bolaji Ladipo Ajayi. I don't think there can be two of them. It has to be Bolaji.
I think we lost him. I think we lost him. I think he has disconnected.
Oh, wow. I hope he can still join us. Perhaps type his question.
Yeah.
Moving very quickly, Ajiboye would like to know, what is the profitability of investing in a movie production?
What is the profitability of
investing in movie production?
I think chances are better now, you know, because there are platforms where you can market the films successfully. I think it is better now for filmmakers, you know, because it's business in the first place. You have to first of all consider how you are going to market the film, you know, before you actually make the film. In our own days, you know, we were like pioneers. We were just mad. We were just crazy about making videos. It was important that we made the films, you know. So those are the lessons that we have learned. For instance, when we were making all those Toluwanile and all the films, it's not a regret, really. I didn't think about the money. I didn't think about the business end of it. It was important that I just made those films. But today, you don't have to. You don't have to experience that again because we already blazed the trail. So the thing is to look at. In fact, what I'm teaching now, you know, because of my appointment with the Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, to take young people that it's important you think entrepreneurship. You know, it's important because it's strange. Me lecturing young people today and say, you know what? You cannot make profit by making films. You can actually make profit by selling your film. And it is important to the filmmaker because if you make money, then you can have your creative freedom. Otherwise, you know, you're just struggling. So it's important now to pay attention to entrepreneurship.
Thank you very much. Quickly, I'll tell you what Yewande Oyefeso is asking. She says, what's your perception on the quality of Yoruba film on African Magic TV?
Well, I don't think my perception is important because African Magic, I know when African Magic started, it started with the best, you know, they could find. But today, I think they have they have to have the content to program, you know, so they might have looked, you know, away from such things. But the most important thing is that I think the Yoruba channel, African Magic Yoruba, you know, has the greatest ratings, you know, which tells you something. That there has to be a reason why people prefer Yoruba programming, you know. So whether good or bad, or the important thing is that the audience think otherwise. I think we have to respect the wishes of the audience.
Thank you very much. Oladapo Akinloye, pardon me. Oladapo Akinloye. Hello, Sir TK. You are no doubt a very successful filmmaker and an entrepreneur. Can you please share one or two major lessons in your entrepreneurial journey? Thank you.
Well, I think entrepreneurial, that's what I just explained, because when I started out, I didn't think much of the entrepreneurial And the lesson that I've learned is that I thought that in how naive I was, that the marketers and distributors were doing us a favor, and then without investing, they were not investing really. And it was the producer who priced himself the responsibility of raising the funds and getting the film made and bringing back to them. So by the time we thought that they were helping, they were just building houses and you are struggling along to recoup the investment, and maybe make a profit. So today, that's why I'm saying that filmmakers should take an interest in the business of making the film. I think between the art or creativity and business, we should strike a balance, between the two. Otherwise, the producer will always be at the receiving end. So I think we have to consciously pay attention to the business and the entrepreneurship. We need to study, do entrepreneurial studies, to complement the filmmaking.
Thank you very much, sir. Two things I got from that: balance, and one needs to study. You need to get professional knowledge on the field that wants to go, especially in this entrepreneurship. So, sir, our time is fast spent. Thank you very much, our attendees. I just want to know, I have tons and tons of questions, but how many more? I crave your indulgence to take a few more, but how many more, sir, can you take? Questions?
No, it depends on you, really, and Tokumbo, and all of you wonderful people who put this together, so.
One would not take so much. Very much, sir. Thank you. So I move on to Taiba Yusuf's question. At TK, sir, are you fully back in Abeokuta? Where can we locate your school? How can one enroll for cinematography in your school?
Well, at the moment, the school is not running. We are redesigning the school, so we will make that information available shortly before the end of the year. But spend most of my time at Abeokuta now. But today, where you live, does it really matter? Nobody knows where you are as long as you stay connected. You are just a click away at any time. So. So it's not really important where you live, since you have access to me online at all times.
That's very true. Access online. Suleiman Dende asked this question. What is your video view on the use of special effects? Does it enhance or reduce the purity of the story? I find that question personally.
Well, I come from the school where in London Film School, there's one saying, that has stuck with me throughout all my working moments. And that is that my creativity diminishes when my resources increase. In other words, if you are not careful, you can really get involved in the visual effects. Some people don't have the most important thing to me is the story. What story are you telling? Then visual effects can enhance the story. But if you think you can tell a story and say, by the way, I've not used this effect, I've not used that effect, I've not used effects. So all along the way, you can lose the story, and draw attention, to the techniques or the mechanic for filmmaking. You want to show people that I can blow 10 cars at the same time. I can cause the greatest explosion. I don't think that is storytelling, really. So even if the visual effects and all those things should enhance the story and support it. So to me, I think a lot of you should pay attention to the story rather than the effect.
Thank you very much. Just two more questions. Members of the webinar, our dear attendees, for questions that we cannot answer live, rest assured that we're going to get responses and mail them to you. But so far, so good. I'm taking two more questions. TK, sir, I'd just like you to know that I'm not the only one that thinks you're a legend. Abiola Adewusi here says, thanks for the great work, sir. You are a legend in the film industry. Keep up the good work. I just said
Thank you.
Those my words. So it's not just me. Nuruddin Abdurazak said, good afternoon. Thank you to Tunde Kelani and Mainframe Production. Is there a way you can assist to educate most of our actors and actresses to promote African culture, especially in the aspect of dressing and clothing? Would you like me to take that?
I think it's a matter of perception. If they don't promote, so I was saying that it's a matter of perception. You know, if they don't promote African culture and things like that, which culture are they going to promote? For me, it's natural, it's a way of life. And as soon as I was conscious and I was free, I realized that I'm going to use whatever I find in my environment. And my work, my storytelling, you know, is a reflection of my language and culture. And that has formed my global view. So I think people need maybe education, you know, to support this, because I believe in the Yoruba say, Ile Latin ko esho rode. You know, before you go global, you first of all have to, you know your own. You know, so for instance, for me, an advocate of African, our own language and culture, you know, and then that doesn't mean that we are going to reinvent anything. No, we are just applying technology and everything to enhance our own. So tí a bá mọ ibi tá a ti ń bọ̀, a lè mọ ibi tá a ń lọ. So it's very important that you must be at home with everything about what God has given your intangible heritage, you know, and that's what you now add value. You create another value, and that's what you take global. You know, you can't be a follow. You can't consume other people, you know, culture and everything and follow blindly, you know, and then before you know it, you have lost your own identity completely. So you become a beast of no nation. I don't think that is the objective. I think we are here for a purpose. And that's why God has created us and given us everything around us, you know, to excel.
Thank you very much. You know that because we launched a poll about your movie, we wanted to know the attendees' favorite movie from, and the highest leading movie now is Shawod.
That's very interesting.
I love Babawande, but you know, this is not me. This we are polling just to understand how people perceive this. Every of your work is very, very, very good. We know that, but there are personal interests that come to bear things like this. And so far, the polls are speaking. Tawodia first, and then Tioluwanile next. Miami is taking the third position. I will send you a report of these polls.
Please, because I sort of thought I saw Orumoru on that list. And Orumoru is not my film, by the way. You know, it's a film by the late Mosisola Yababasala, and it was directed by Dr. Ola Balogun. But I was a member of the crew. I was an assistant on the project.
Thank you very much. Very nice question. We're answering live. Bolanle Edwards is asking, what are the innovations you are bringing to the film world, especially with the diversity in filmmaking all over the world?
Well, I think now I certainly have the maturity and we have the technology, you know, with which we can actually tell our own stories. I think since Baba Yubato Ogunde's films, collectively, we have not done anything that can match what Ogunde did maybe 30 years ago. You know, so we have to get our acts right. We have to unearth, we have to dig for the best of our stories that tell something about us, our history, you know, and tons of literature. We are never going to be in short supply of stories. And that is why the whole world is looking this way. That's why the multinationals, the streaming platforms are coming into Nigeria. because, you know, whether we like it or not, our tangible heritage, the oil that we depended on so much is gone. You know, in a few years' time, there'll be no demand for Nigeria's oil. But thank God, our intangible heritage, that is where we have to pay attention, you know, and the creative industry is going to be very huge. And this is going to surpass oil and gas. Hopefully, you know, we perhaps have not, we should invest, our investment should be on people, on the young generation, you know, because that is our heritage. You know, the more people we get into school and into education, quality education, skills, you know, that is our investment for the future.
I pray that that boom we're talking about will be in mind. So, please, I believe you're enjoying. For one very last question to be answered live from Miriam Popola. Hello, sir. Just wondering what your thoughts are on animation. Do you ever see yourself working in animation?
Sorry, I didn't catch that question. You have to, you know, you have some.
Miriam Popola asking, hello, sir. Just wondering what your thoughts are on animation. Do you ever see yourself working in that field? Animation.
Oh, no, it doesn't matter, you know, because I use more live action than animation. You know, it's another form of storytelling and it can be used powerfully. So I didn't specialize in animation, but there are a lot of people, you know, in fact, there's the benefit of working in animation is that we don't have to physically build the cities or some of the demands that be in our stories. Like if it demands that we use 1,000 horses or 500 horses, I think all this kind of storytelling can help, you know. So I think it's a specialist field and I'm happy that it's growing gradually. And I've seen some of the work that have been done in Nigeria and I'm confident that we can make an impact in animation and visual effects as well.
Thank you very much, sir. I even ask you, what is your own favorite movie? From your body of work, what would you consider to be your own personal favorite?
I think it's a very difficult question to answer because I'm aware that each one of the films had the same number of the kind of challenges, depending on the facilities, depending on what was available during that time for making the film. So I think they all gave equal challenges, you know, and I'm happy to have made them.
Thank you very much. You on our webinar series, but we cannot let you go without hearing two things about Anila. The buzz is real. We're feeling it outside. Even social media platforms, you know, everything. I started to see before I even got to hear from Alaji himself, Alaji Tokumbo. You know, I've already started seeing the buzz on Anila and everything, and even the casting seems top notch. Your usual style. Please tell us one or two things. What to expect.
Well, I think that it took me almost 5 years, you know, before I could get it made. From the time that it crossed my mind that the film should be made. First of all, you know, I think it's only Abeokuta that could have produced Ayinla Omowura, you know, because of the environment and the history of Abeokuta itself. So Abeokuta also is a principal character in the film. You know, Abeokuta had 3 children musically, you know. The families, first of all, we had the Kuti family, and then Fela Anikulapo Kuti, you know, who is represented by the elite at that time. And of course, Commander Ebenezer Obey, who is a conservative. His music is, you know, like that. And then Ayinla Omowura comes from the lowest, you know, end of the ladder. He had to fend for himself, had to grow up on the street. You know, he came from rock bottom, like myself, you know, but he had undeniably a talent, you know, that propelled him to stardom. You know, so he lived on the street, he had more challenges and so on. So, and I say that anytime I make a film, you know, I always see some aspect of my life in it. And I'm happy that we made the film, because I was a bit desperate, because if we didn't make it at this time, I doubt we would have ever made it again in life. It's going to be a surprise to a lot of people, because you already noticed the quality of the cast that we had. We have technology also on our side. We have everything on our side to tell a good and riveting story. You know, so I'm promising everyone that it's going to be surprised, because you're probably thinking that I know the story. No, nobody knows the story of Anila. You know, so just wait and see.
I don't know the story.
We are looking forward, TK.
Yes, I promise you. I promise you that you won't be disappointed, you know.
Thank you very much. It's been quite an honor, a beautiful session. Professor Gbolahan Gbadamosi, we thank you for your time as well. TK, sir, we thank you. We cannot thank you.
A pleasure.
Enough. Everybody has been totally enriched from this session, I know. For our attendees, we thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us. Those of you, some of you are constant members, you know, attendants at our webinars. We thank you, we appreciate you. We are B-K-O Citadel Limited. We are a strategy, leadership, and manpower consulting firm. We're on YouTube. You can follow us. We're social. And also, our speaker for today, Mr. Tunde Kelani, you can follow him on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Tunde Kelani TV and see. For someone that asked about his body of work, I'm sure you can get 1 or 2 pointers there. Although he already told us that when it's time, we will know. Thank you very much. This has been a very interesting session, and being the first session for the first edition for the year, I can only say Happy New Year, and I wish you all a blessed 2021. Thank you, Professor, and thank you, TK. Cheers.
Thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure, and Happy New Year once again. And Gbolahan, looking forward to seeing you one-on-one one of these days.
I'll be in touch.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Okay, bye.